Hello everybody, I'm Rumpel, and this is my first FNAF redesign. Some of you might recognize this little bear guy, and that would be because he's also my channel banner. He's a slightly customized little plush, so I thought it would be cute to test out using him as my persona, rather than just a boring drawing of myself in the corner over here. First things first, Circus Baby's design is absolutely fine. She's a little clown baby thing, she rips in half, she eats kids, she can keep being herself. All that to say, this is not a critique video whatsoever. I'm not a character designer, I'm absolutely not fixing her. This will just be a personal design for my AU to replace the old design I had for her. Before I go on with the video, I just want to point out, if you're a Procreate app user like I am, you might recognize the occasional cut to a Procreate time-lapse. That's because my screen recordings failed like many times, so whenever that happens, you'll just see a Procreate time-lapse to fill in those blanks. Originally this was on screen as well in my reference side box, but since that isn't shown in the time-lapse, here's the pose I was referencing. Getting back to the matter at hand and why we're all here, if I did have to be nitpicky about Circus Baby's design, I'd say I think she could be a little bit more clown-like if one wanted to ham up the clown aesthetic, that is. I didn't have a reference made for the old version of her, so at best I have these frames of her from past animatics. My qualms with these are that, well, they look like, this, which I don't really like. The art is fine, I'm not of the opinion that I can do better. I just want to go the opposite direction. Less grown woman, more childlike. For Baby, I want to primarily take ideas from these little vintage clown dolls. I want her to be cute, but kinda slightly unsettling if you squint, or if you're a small child. She isn't downright creepy or terrifying or anything. I also really wanted her to be a lot rounder with like those baggy pants and clothes. I tried to look it up, I couldn't find a name, I found a bunch of clown lore instead. The way I had her drawn before was just too distinctly like a grown woman in makeup. She wasn't really giving me clown vibes before, or at least not as much as I'd like. She more so gave me Party City vibes or modern day Harley Quinn. So I decided a lot more round and childlike was the way that I want to go, along with more prominent curls, because I did not like the old hair I gave her. Her old hair was intended to be way more gummy-like and rubbery looking, kinda like balloons, but I'm not really proud of my execution of that, and I'd just rather abandon that concept entirely. I'm sure somebody else can do it better, but I think the curls are a lot cuter. And as for her little stomach hatch, that's not going to be quite visible anymore. Not out of critique, I think the stomach hatch is also absolutely fine. I just want to make it more non-visible for my design. You may notice that in my designs, a lot of the mechanical parts are hidden away or just not there entirely. Sometimes I excuse it with illusion discs, sometimes I don't really excuse it at all. Here, though, her stomach hatch is just hidden. I'll edit in a little drawing later to show how it would work, but she's still gonna rip in half at the same spot and her stomach claw will snatch up Elizabeth and blah blah blah. You know the story, I presume. If you don't know the story, this clown, she rips open and she eats a child from her stomach, so now you know. Carrying on, I really wanted to preserve the idea of a skirt, so that's when I did some digging, and this little guy descended down from heaven, and I thought, wow, gee willikers goodness gracious Lord almighty, that is the perfect ratio of skirt to pants to shirt. Because I wanted to include the baggy pants, but I also really wanted to preserve the cutesy feminine skirt, so that's what I went with. At this point, I was really happy with the design I was set on, and it didn't take too much workshopping. You'll notice in the Speedpaint, I don't really change anything. I had a pretty clear vision in mind that I was able to execute, and I'm pretty happy with it. Some of my other inspirations during this came from, of course, no other than Lemonade and Punch Clown. They really ham up the classic old clown vibes. I really hate them. They're creepy, and I don't like looking into their eyes, but I thought they would also be good inspiration, and you know what? This design probably wouldn't be the same without them. This also led to me, as you'll see soon enough, using some fairly bright colors. Now, I was talking about this with my friend before recording this. I really like the idea of Circus Baby being all bright and eye-grabbing and maybe even kind of an eyesore, in addition to being very cutesy, whilst being designed by William. Meanwhile, the puppet in my AU is meant to look so distinctly creepy in that old porcelain puppet doll kind of way, whilst having been built by Henry. And to be fair, one is meant to actively lure and catch children, while the other is just doing its job as security. But in my AU, I like to imagine that out of the two of them, William may have been more so the designs and visual concept guy. Structurally and quality-wise, the stuff he makes probably wouldn't be that good, but visually, that's where he would shine more. Meanwhile, Henry is not as good in the arts department, like, whatsoever, but he's way better at the engineering part and putting together the animatronics. So, while Circus Baby might be a fully built animatronic, she looks alright. I imagine the quality is also very janky and poor, just because she was made by William, so that's how it would be in my AU, at least. Again, illusion discs are a thing, so maybe that hides some of the janky quality, I don't know. She doesn't really look janky here, but she's not really meant to, so it's fine. At this point in the speed paint, I'm already past coloring the hair, but you might have noticed for a second there that I gave her like red hair, because I really like giving her red hair, but I came to the devastating conclusion that, between you and me, she looked like Poppy Playtime. Dun dun dun. And I panicked, very briefly, but I salvaged it just by changing it to ginger. My version of Elizabeth is more of a ginger than like a pure redhead anyway, so I'm just grateful that for no reason in particular, I just felt like drawing scrunchies instead of bows in her hair, because that would look way more like Poppy Playtime. And speaking of colors, I settled on this orange, red, and yellow color palette as opposed to what I was originally trying to go for, which was I was originally trying to include more like pink, but it didn't really read like Circus Baby to me. It just read like any other clown, so I felt that sticking to the orange and the red was the right way to go, just to make it scream Circus Baby more. Also, that kind of made me think of Sun from Security Breach. Also, I just want to mention this real quick. This design is still like 100% subject to change. Like, usually keeping a full body reference like this helps me stick to designs, but I'm still likely to stray away from this, whether that be changing her color shades or maybe giving her a different accessory or two. Mostly little stuff like that, unless I plan on doing a big design overhaul again, which I don't think I'll really need to. But I'm planning on using this design in a future animatic, like a far future animatic. But yeah, if Circus Baby shows up, I'll be using this design, with probably a few changes here and there. Depends on how I'm feeling about it. Because, like, I have my opinion now that I like what I did with this, but maybe in a few weeks or, like, a few months, I'll be like, wow,
that was shit.
I absolutely hate this. As of right now, though, I like it. It serves its purpose, it conveys what I wanted to do and what I wanted to change. Here you can see me finishing up my shading process, where, for the most part, I just go in with a Tamar brush and just do some highlights on top of my shading. And here you can mostly see me slapping down random colors. I do that a lot. When I shade, or if I'm doing a background, I will just slap down contrasting colors and try and make it a little more visually interesting. And when that eventually becomes a muddled mess, I'm happy with it. Even though mostly cutesy, with just a little bit of unsettlingness was the vibe I was trying to reach for, you'll see in just a second that her color palette goes dark. Here. And I took a small screenshot of that, it's pretty blurry, but just to show that she can still be pretty creepy in different lighting, so I'm hoping to explore that in future projects. But for now, I'm just keeping the darker colors to the shadows of her design, and just adding a little bit of glow to and around her eyes so that they pop a little more, because I didn't really like the shade they were before adding the glow. But here, I'm just finishing up my shading, my little highlights, and adding just a little more purple in those corners, and she's done. Off screen, I changed the background colors just to make it so that she pops and it's a little clearer where she is in the image. But here she is. She's all done. I'm really happy with her, and I hope to show her off in future videos. If you've made it this far, or you're skipping to the end, thank you for watching regardless, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, evening, or night. Thank you!